Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, a.k.a. Caliban, and there's nothing worse than that awkward moment when you run into the partner of the doctor whose neck you snapped when your Klingon sleeper agent programming was activated. My bad. I'm joined on the show, as usual, by Ella Pearson. She's the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast on the Chronic Rift Network, which is at chronicdrift.com. Welcome back, Ella.
Hi, thank you.
How you doing?
I basically wanted to cry during that entire episode, but...
Yes, it was particularly effective.
Yeah.
I wanted to cry throughout the entire football game that I watched tonight, but... the wrong show for that, and hopefully, like that game, this show will have a happy ending. I was going to say, this is just off topic for a second, but I just watched Star Trek VI again recently, The Undiscovered Country, mostly because I was doing another show for Enterprising Individuals about the character of Spock, and we wanted to talk about the development of the character of Spock, from the beginning all the way till the last kind of classic appearance of the character in Star Trek VI. And not move that aside, one thing that I really like about Star Trek VI and also Star Trek II, the two Nicholas Meyer movies, is that he really focuses on the reaction of the crew, just nameless people, yeoman that guy or ensign that guy. And there are a lot of shots of the crew going about their daily work and duties as all this, world-destroying sort of torpedoes flying kind of action is going on. There's people who are kind of sweating in the depths of the ship. And that's something that we've seen a little bit on Discovery, and I always like it when we get that on these spaceship shows because they make it feel more real. And we got that a little bit this week as Admiral Cornwell is giving her big speech, and you get to see people working on Discovery, and I like being reminded that there is a life there beyond, the 3 or 4 sort of main characters that we're following.
Yeah, those shots when her team moved in with the phasers was really good, of everyone just holding their hands up.
Right, yeah. Oops, we've been boarded, but it's the good guys, luckily. It's really tense in this episode. It is the 14th episode of Star Trek Discovery, entitled The War Without, The War Within. And as always, we're here to break it down for you. We're setting a course for the spoiler zone, of course, so be warned. We're glad you decided to join us. But if you haven't seen the episode, spoilers are incoming. The synopsis for the episode this week is, back on the USS Discovery, Burnham and the crew are faced with the harsh reality of the war during their absence. In order to move forward, Starfleet must use unconventional tactics and sources to take their next action against the Klingons. The episode was written by Lisa Randolph. It was directed by David Solomon. And a little recap from last week on Star Trek Discovery. What happened? Wow, what didn't happen last week on Star Trek Discovery? There was quite a bit going on. And I think as a response to that, this is a little more introspective of an episode. I wrote down on my notes, talky episode, which it is, which I don't think is unjustified. But it is definitely a huge slowdown in pace from the breakneck speed of last week.
I loved it. Give me every slow episode, all the slow episodes.
We have these big things that happen, but then we want to break down and check out, what's happening with how the crew feels about it. And
there were a lot of moments in this episode that we've been waiting for, like Saru seeing Georgiou, or Saru realizing that there were Kelpians in the Mirror Universe, or Stamets and Tyler.
I was waiting to see those fortune cookies finally get theirs, and they certainly did. This is also just totally off the cuff. What is the penalty for treason in their world? Because immediately when they bring Georgiou on, they're like, all right, look, nobody can know about this, mostly because we're setting up a thing for the end of the episode, but you, random transporter operator, you can't tell anybody about this, and it's treason if you do. So do you just, go to prison like Michael Burnham did for a long time, or...?
I would think, yeah, right? I mean, what else is the Federation going to do to you?
Off to the dilithium mine with you.
Yeah, you're going to go to the mines.
Speaking of Star Trek VI, it sounds a lot like that. So as this episode opens, looks like Discovery is back in the regular universe. Of course, we are 9 months ahead of where we wanted to be and as such, things are going bad for the war effort. And I wanted to call out the unsung heroes. Nobody's talked about these guys, but I want to give props to the paint robots, who now, after having spent all that time changing USS to ISS, they got to go right back out there and change it back to USS. But they get the job done.
They're loyal.
Yeah, they're extremely loyal. They're probably like the animals on the Flintstones, it's a living, that sort of thing. There's a big question here that sort of hangs over the entire episode that we can delve into, which is something that was on my mind as I was watching it, which is what do we do? Like, I kind of wish that, this is the penultimate episode, and there's one more episode left. That's what penultimate means. And I'm just wondering, like, we've got a situation where it's clear, and we'll just jump to the end here. Like we said, there's spoilers.
Okay, great. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah. We need to talk about that. We've put Giorgio in charge, and nominally, and so it looks like we are committed to this fighting fire with fire kind of thing. And we've set up since the beginning of the show, since the Vulcan Hello, which was the very first episode, that we have an excuse to act non-Starfleety, or not to use Marquess of Queensberry rules here. Like, we always talk about our ideals, but if the only thing these people understand is a bloody nose, then we got to give them a bloody nose. And I don't know how that sits with me. Like, maybe it's the right action for the right time, but I feel like, the Vulcan Hello, and then also this episode where Cornwell basically goes to L'Rell and she kind of confirms that. It's kind of like giving our characters a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's like kind of giving them an excuse to do that, which, again, like I said, I mean, maybe sometimes you have to do that, but it seems not the kind of thing that you would really want to do in Starfleet. And we also have a bunch of scenes, or at least one particular scene in this episode, where Tilly basically says, we gotta love each other, and loving, and Sarek talks about loving your enemy, and so I'm getting a bit of like ideological whiplash here between the two sides.
Well, and earlier in the season, there were so many times when Stamets would stand up to Lorca and be like, I am not a soldier, like I came here to do research, that's what Starfleet is.
Yeah, and so now we're handing it over to the ultimate soldier in the former Emperor, now Captain Georgiou. So there even to the last episode of this show, there is this continual war for the soul of the show, kind of, if you will, which isn't an accident. It's clearly something they set up. But when you take on a property with long-term fans that feel very strongly about it and feel a certain way, you're playing it pretty close to the vest in that I don't think they're trying to be antagonistic, but they're saying we're going to take what makes Star Trek, and we're going to put that on trial. And I've complimented the bravery of the production before, but everything's brave as long as you stick the landing. Otherwise, it's like, what a terrible mistake. And I don't think it's going to be a mistake, but I'm interested to see how they're going to land it in one more episode.
Well, yeah, okay, so like, I feel conflicted. Obviously, like, part of the reason I love Star Trek so much and so many other people love Star Trek so much is because, like, I don't know, it deals with ethics and, like, morals, and Disco has been, like, so different from every other series. But if I was them, like, if I was Admiral Cornwall and the Klingons had, like, the Klingons had won the war and were just, like, rampaging, like, if I had Mirror Universe Georgiou, like, that's who I would put at the front. Like, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. It's weird that maybe the Admiral's trying to kind of cover her ass from a policy perspective in this kind of charade of having Georgiou be, our Georgiou. I think the Discovery knows what's up. Like Sarek says, they've been through a terrible, terrible ordeal. They've been through so much. They're certainly not going to be happy about the fact that Georgiou has, a decision-making position at this point. But I don't see if she's just going to be on the Discovery. I don't understand why they need to go through all this theater about having her be the old Georgiou.
Because only like 3 people on the ship know that she's the Emperor, right? Like the crew doesn't know.
Right, but the entire crew knew that they were in another universe, and they all had to wear the Judge Dredd uniforms and stuff like that. So I mean,
Yeah, but they seemed thoroughly convinced that their JoJo was back. I mean, maybe part of it is that like they want to believe she's back, like everyone loved her so much.
yeah, and also just the fact that we just got rid of a mirror universe captain, and now we're going to throw another one right back in.
Um, I honestly don't know how I feel about it. I'm excited to see Michelle Yeoh. I'm excited for this kind of like I'm excited for her to like sneak around a little bit. I think that's going to be exciting. But yeah, I don't know. I was really mostly I was just really looking forward to Saru being the real captain. Like
Yeah,
I think he deserves that so much.
got a little bit of that, but yeah.
But like is he the captain to launch a vicious attack from inside of Kronos? I don't know.
I know. Yeah, we should definitely talk about that. Do you think that that show ends the way it began, with Burnham and Giorgio like alone, on a desert plain, but instead of trying to be saved, they're fighting each other this time? Is it going to?
Oh my gosh!
If you'll excuse the turn of phrase, will it mirror the pilot episode? And then her blood spills out and makes a Starfleet insignia. No, I don't know. Can we fix? Is the point? Is what we're going for here to fix the Klingon Empire? If we don't want to hurt our enemies, we want to heal them. They made a big point about the fact that the Klingons are running wild, and they're not even accomplishing what T'Kuvma wanted. T'Kuvma probably likes the fact that their blood is up and that they're sort of taking, doing it for themselves. But there's no unity, as it's made very clear. And that's kind of the appeal when Cornwell goes to L'Rell about how this isn't really what you wanted. So are we doing that thing where we're trying to, fix our enemies and not defeat them? Is there some way that we can help the Klingon Empire achieve unity, which will be beneficial for both of us?
I mean, yeah, I think it's more about like knocking them back into their place than like killing every Klingon.
Right.
Right, like I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out why the Klingons have, like, quote, won the war, unquote. But, I mean, Giorgio is, like, pretty unpredictable, I think. So, if she decides, like, every Klingon needs to die for, like, me to stay in power or for the organization that I'm working for to stay in power, like, I think that she'll do that.
Yeah.
But I would like to see Admiral Cornwall get it together a little bit and make it more about just being like, why are you attacking civilians? Why are you like, because I mean, I think that Klingons are, I don't know, I think that Klingons are good people at heart. Let's get cheesy about a fictional race.
Sure.
They're honorable, right? Like, think about Worf. And, like, they're a little violent, sure. Like, they're a little violent, but so they've gotten a little out of control. But I think if somebody puts them back in their place, like, kind of be like, oh, okay, like, all right, maybe there's, like, a few Klingons that need to die who are really for just attacking, like, what? Like, convoys carrying food or something? But
yeah, right.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. I have not been able to anticipate anything that happens on Disco yet, and I don't think I will be able to ever.
There's one thing that I know for certain, and that there's no way that Prime Lorca is dead. Because on the show, they're like, oh, it's so horrible. So now we know that our Lorca's dead. It's like, no, he's not. You would not have reminded us that there was the possibility that he was dead if he actually was. I don't know if Jason Isaacs is like signed up for a second season, but they're definitely going to leave that open to possibly bring him back.
Yeah, I feel like they're keeping that in their pockets.
Oh, for certain. You have to.
Yeah, like that's too big of a reveal to just not use. So yeah, I think we're going to see Jason Isaacs again for sure.
I have to say that as far as their commitment or questioning of certain morals that Starfleet has always held, they're definitely holding up the representation side. I barely notice the diversity anymore on the show, and that's a really good thing. Like, there was a scene in this episode where there are 3 women and a guy all talking about something, and 2 of the women are not white, and these are all the main characters of the show, and they are driving forward everything that's going on. And it was one of those moments where I was into the scene, and then I kind of was like, oh, wait a minute, this is amazing. You don't see this in a lot of TV, especially not in a lot of genre TV. And so I gotta give social justice thumbs up to that.
Yes. I'm still pretty bitter about Culvert.
Okay, right, sure.
I mean, just like, it's been a couple episodes. Why did he have to die? Like, I don't think that Stamets had like a huge revelation because of it. I don't think his character was pushed because of it.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm conflicted. But I agree with you that, like, I don't know, like, having Sonequa, like, right up there is amazing. And obviously they have, like, the bridge crew is, like, super diverse. And you have, like, Michelle Yeoh, like, at the head of everything as well. But
right.
I was really excited to have, like, some queers in space.
Oh, sure. And as far as the Culber thing goes, I think they just wanted to really, this is a harsh show sometimes. And I think they wanted to pull the trigger on that. They could have easily had Vyler be like, this guy's going to figure out who I am and grab a space scalpel, and just go to town on Culber. So, Culber's in a coma. Like, he's very badly wounded. And everything's the same. He could still see him in the mycelial thing or whatever. Later on they meet, and it's like, you're the guy that almost killed my partner, you jerk. And yet the character still exists, like, on the show. I mean, they could have totally done that, but I think their instinct was...
I kind of like that, actually, because then there's the added suspense of, like, when he wakes up, then he'll tell everyone who it was.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's...
They could have done that.
they could have done that. Because I think you're right. I mean, it does... I won't say it adds up to nothing, but it definitely adds up to not a lot. And there's a couple kind of aborted elements now that we can kind of look back on the entire season.
Yeah.
Cornwall being captured in the first place never really goes anywhere. I mean, she gets captured and then she just shows up on the sarcophagus ship and they get her off and no problem. Oh, she can't walk. Oh, she can walk again. It's fine. And she didn't even get cool, like, robo legs or something like that. We know they've got cybernetics in this
I
version
wish.
of the show.
We know they have cool wheelchairs.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we're not doing the 1 beep for yes, 2 beeps for no anymore. We're not doing that. Speaking of continuity, there are a couple nods to continuity in this. They talk about, they mentioned the Yorktown, which I believe was, in Sisko's time, was the ship that he was XO on. As far as there being, I don't think there was ever a original series Yorktown mentioned, but I think we can just assume. They mentioned Captain Archer, first obliquely, and then just explicitly talk about Captain Archer.
Yeah, I was shook. That was weird to hear.
Yeah.
Did it, like, were you surprised, or did it sound like normal?
It sounded explicit. Like, it sounded like they, this is a fan service bit. But, I just feel like it's in keeping with what they've done. Although it's tantalizing still, because it's still not, if they say, like, at this point, to convince me and everybody else that this is absolutely in our universe, now we know it's not the mirror universe, but some prime A or B or something, they'd have to say, remember the time that Captain Kirk had that dog with the unicorn horn or something? Like, they would have to explicitly refer, remember the time that lady killed her dad when they were doing Macbeth? Like, they'd have to explicitly refer to something in the original series, because even now they talk about Enterprise, so we know Enterprise is in their world, but Enterprise could have been in Kelvin timeline as well. They talk about Starbase One, which, as far as I know, I don't think Starbase One ever was in the original shows. It was just, a Starbase One was introduced in 2009 and in Into Darkness. And so, you could posit that there would be a Starbase One in our universe, but at the same time, it's like, it's these tantalizing sort of, okay, that's close, but it's not theory confirmed still. And after we've confirmed so many theories for this show, we've gotten so close.
I mean, I'm curious to see where they go with the timeline thing. Like I said before, I mean, the only thing that I can anticipate is that the Discovery needed to be there to win the war, and something, they busted up the timeline. But I would also be interested to see if it's like like an offshoot of our universe. I don't think it'll ever be the Kelvinverse.
Well, that's true. It seems like that's true at this point. And if they've got an entire moon full of spores now, and they are essentially a time machine, then there's no saying that they couldn't jump back. But
yeah, just jump back and fix it.
Remains tantalizingly unanswered still.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody who's looking. Anybody who isn't looking is totally happy, but that's not me. So they terraform a moon in this. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there was nobody else already living there. No big deal. I thought it was kind of out of left field. It was cool. I always like to see new applications of Trek technology, but you've already, and I can't remember the name, but you've already established that there is like this lush forest world somewhere, where the crystal towers were.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they fly back there and ask the energy beings, like, hey, can you guys help us out? Do you have like an island where you can like grow these things, and just use the elements in the world that you already have?
I mean, why go back? I can't remember that planet's name. It started with a P. Pavo?
Pavo.
Why go back to Pavo if you could just create your whole like spore moon and then just have that be like your interdimensional gas station?
Yeah, I suppose. Plus, if you did it on Pavo, Pavo would be like, sure. And then they'd be like, tell the entire universe, hey, everybody, they're growing spores here. You guys do that every time. Try to keep a secret for once. Jeez. So in one episode, I still don't know how they're going to do this, but we're going to jump to Kronos,
Okay.
jump inside of Kronos, map it with our sensors, and ... profit. Like, I don't know at this point. Like,
I mean, to be honest, without attaching any attitude to this statement, hiding inside of a planet seems like something that would happen in a J.J. Abrams movie.
yeah. Or on Voyager.
Seems like a J.J. move.
Right, yeah. Voyager could go underwater, couldn't it? So they were, they went in the ocean sometimes. But it is like I said, I don't mind it so much because it's another interesting application. We've created this technology. Let's see what it can do.
I'm a little confused why there's like just like big holes inside of Kronos, but like I'm fine with it. Like I'm not bothered.
It's all the volcanoes.
Yeah, apparently.
That makes sense. Let's talk Mommy and Daddy are fighting. We get a big scene between Sarek and the former Emperor, where they're doing some deals. We don't know exactly what's going on here, but Sarek understands practicality and he understands logic. It seems like Giorgio makes a case, half of which I think we get at the end of the episode, but I kind of wonder what Sarek is off to do.
That was so surreal, honestly. I think I gasped the most times in this episode than any other episode. Like, to see him and, like, Giorgio talking about Burnham on screen, I was shook. Well, I mean, every episode I say that I'm shook, but I was shook again.
Double shook.
Exactly. And I have no idea what they could be planning, like, for or, like, around Michael together, because what would Sarek need from her,
Right. The sort of like writer in me starts out looking for the loose ends, and I think about like the Vulcan logic extremists, but I don't know how they could really help out. I don't think that's another one of those like, oh, it's a sort of world building element, but I'm not sure that's going to come back at all. But hey, you never know.
Yeah.
There is a glowing spore on Tilly's shoulder.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's all gonna happen next week.
Yeah, it's all gonna happen. Sarek and Burnham get to have a tete-a-tete for the first time in a long time. That was surprisingly touching.
Yeah, he was like honest with her. He seemed like so much more open than before.
Yeah, this is the Sarek that I think, well, at least I know and love, but I think that we know a little better than usual. Mm-hmm. A guy who, even at this point, he's younger, has kind of, he's not, half human, so he's more emotionless than like Spock is, but he's seems to manage well his emotions and his logic, and he cares clearly about Burnham, and he isn't really afraid to show it in his own way. He even gives her the Vulcan hug, which is hand on the shoulder.
Touch shoulder.
Touch shoulder. I love you. And he also
Can we talk
says,
about, okay, I might be
yeah,
crazy, but he says a line. He says, like, your mother was human.
yeah. Well, he means Amanda, right?
That's my question.
Yeah.
Because later on in the episode, Burnham calls him her father for, like, the first time, right?
Oh, I see. I see what you mean.
But, like, I don't know. It's just the tone of it. I'm very suspicious about, like, every single little thing on Discovery now after everything that's happened.
I heard the
And so the
crinkle
way
of your
he said it just
tinfoil
made me
hat.
think, like, okay, like, he said her mother was human, but is he talking about Amanda or is he talking about her biological mother? And then if he was talking about her biological mother, why did he say it like that instead of saying your parents were human? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
You,
Or
you see the tinfoil hat
I
logic?
hear it. Yeah.
Okay.
Or her surrogate mother in Giorgio.
Exactly.
Yeah. As far as keeping things in your pocket, I think Burnham's parents are solidly in
Yeah.
that pocket for a future season of the show.
But if he did mean Amanda, then that is really touching because then Sarek is just saying, like, she's your mother, and that's
Yeah.
nice because that's, like,
We're-
one step closer to
your
saying,
parents
like,
love
you are
you.
my mother. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're your parents. Like,
You never call. Yeah.
send a transmission once in a while.
Yeah. Right. We got a hologram. Come on. And he says, don't, she's beating herself up about the Tyler thing, and he tells her, that she shouldn't regret having loved somebody, which is really touching. And he turns around.
Classic Sarek.
Yeah. He's like, okay, now I got to go do something really bad. Probably.
He always says something really, like, touching about love, and then he's like, all right, now I gotta go.
I
That was
gotta go
enough.
scheme and
That
do
was enough
something.
for, like 60 years.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Tyler and Burnham situation, which is fraught in this episode. She finally confronts him at the end of the episode, and it doesn't go the way that you would expect something like this to go. It is not a happy reunion. There's history there, and there are deep-seated anxieties still about what's going on, and it doesn't really end all that well.
I would not trust him. Would you trust him?
If I was a TV show character, maybe. Speaking of things that I've watched, I was watching The Schizoid Man, an episode where the guy from Star Trek 6, the one-eyed Klingon guy, he plays a scientist that takes over Data's body, and then he's running around inside of Data, and Data's like knocking people out left and right, and he's like macking on like helpless ladies, and then they fix it, and then 20 seconds. Are you okay, Data? I'm fine. Ha ha ha. And then we're off. And it's like, how do they ever trust this guy ever again? I mean, he had a beard at the beginning of the episode. He looked totally crazy. But I mean, if I was on a TV show, oftentimes they just heal that up real fast because we got to move on. And I kind of respect the fact that this is going to continue. It's not okay.
Yeah, well, and earlier, like, before we realized that he was, like, Vok, they played with his PTSD, like, so much.
Right.
Not played. I mean, like, had, like, honest plot lines and had him, like, talking about it. And so to have her be like, I don't trust you because you in this body, like, tried to murder me.
Yeah. And they have an unhealthy relationship. Just stop right. Full stop. Now I'll continue.
Yes.
Because
Tyler, from the beginning, has leaned on her way too heavily.
Yeah, right. Lieutenant Commander codependency. Yeah, she's because, and then she's like kind of coming after him because she's like, you were experiencing, this PTSD, these problems, and you said that if you felt like it was too much, you'd come to me, and you didn't come to me. So she's kind of like castigating him for like not being weak and coming to her, and then he flips it around. And he's like, it's just about you and your lack of intimacy or your fear of intimacy because you opened yourself up to somebody and you got hurt and then you're running away. I'm like, whoa, you're going to play that card? You're the one that like tried to choke her out.
Yeah, it was like really intense. It was like not fair at all. I remember when they had their first like honest talk and he like said, I don't remember what he said. He said something about like, oh gosh, I wish I could remember. He said something creepy about, not very creepy, but just like that I could tell that he was relying on her too much. Like he said something strange, like relating to his PTSD and being like, "Oh, like you cured me. Like I need you to live." And it's
Yeah,
like,
right. You're
that's a
my
lot.
medicine. Yeah, right. Which, if this was, if Ryan Gosling said that to Rachel McAdams, fine. But this is
Yeah.
an
But
adult
when
show
you have when you're like
with aliens.
you cured my PTSD, it's like, okay, settle down. All right, let's back up.
See, this is why you have a counselor on board.
For real. Like, where's Troy?
She could have had this wrapped up in 5 minutes, no problem.
True.
So yeah, boy, going forward, we've got our work cut out for us. I don't know if you watched the teaser for next time, but it looks like
I did.
Yeah, it looks like a busy episode.
Mm-hmm.
There are shades of the first, the pilot of Enterprise or a couple different episodes in Enterprise where they go to like the alien market, and there's like weird aliens walking around, and they're wearing like the cool undercover clothes. And so, once more, I'm worried that now that we're getting picked up, there's going to be a second season, this thing might end on a big cliffhanger. What do you think?
Oh, it's definitely going to end on a big cliffhanger. I'm going to cry.
Looking forward, let's look at our threat ganglia. Do you think anybody is going to cash out and go to the big holodeck in the sky in the last episode?
I'm very concerned that they're going to kill somebody in the last episode, and I have no idea who it could possibly be. Maybe Tyler. Maybe Tyler sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
I could see that happening, and it being kind of sad. But at the same time, it's like I feel like they have stuff to play out with him and his like redemption. Oh gosh, I don't know. Random crewmate number 3 who has one line every 4 episodes.
Yeah, I never guess, so I'm gonna guess this week. I think if we're gonna, lock horns with the Klingons, then somebody's got to go, and maybe we'll lose Captain Robot.
Yeah.
Or like one of the speaking extras.
Yeah. Or do you think Cornwall? She seems not really. She doesn't seem as stable as a Starfleet admiral should be in combat.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got a scheming, conniving genius, former empress from the Mirror Universe, who's in our universe, and 3 people know that she's not who she says she is. Who's on the hit list?
For real?
All those people. So
all the people who aren't her like surrogate daughter.
Yeah. So cross off that guy who ran the transporter. He's gone.
Yeah.
Saru and Burnham are probably safe, but yeah, I think Cornwall might
Do you
be
think?
in danger.
I think that she would attack Saru.
Yeah.
For sure. Like she was not. That was immediate. She was not happy.
She's not happy about that at all. Those are pretty good guesses. So we'll have to see if we're right or not. But yeah, I'm starting to feel pretty strong about how I don't think we're going to get a big resolution, or we'll resolve something and then it'll be like, "What? That thing?" See you next season. Something like that.
Can we talk about Tilly in this episode?
Sure.
Her character development over like all of these episodes, like at the beginning of the season, she was so like scared and like sort of shy. But it's like even in that first episode when she was first introduced, like Burnham listened to her. You know what I mean? It's like she was introduced as this like scared little cadet, and then every episode since then has been building like on her strengths.
Right.
And I was just like I love Tilly. I was so crazy like happy when she went and sat with Tyler, even though I have my own conflicted feelings about him. Like I don't know, but wow. And then the stuff she said to Burnham about like, we can't turn him into a supervillain. Like, we can't be his origin story.
Right, yeah, right, exactly. You got some pull with this guy. Go talk to him. Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, she's on top of it.
Yeah, that's been a really great journey, and it's been a really great depiction Mary Wiseman's done a really good job of playing the character, too. Mm-hmm. You don't get this. If she doesn't get a promotion in this last episode, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's like she's still a cadet, But, like, is there a Starfleet Academy right
Yeah,
now?
that's
for
right. My
graduate
school got
from?
blown
Like,
up.
no.
I automatically get an A. Exactly. Yeah. Definitely, she needs to get promoted, at least a field permit. If Wesley Crusher can fly the Enterprise D,
True.
then yeah, come on.
Tilly is way more, like, assertive than Wesley
It's
ever was.
overdue.
Sorry, Wesley, but she deserves it.
Absolutely. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for our show this week. Thanks for joining us, listeners. If you like what you hear, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPod for updates and to get notified when new episodes of both Enterprising Individuals and this show, Discoverage, are released. And you can tweet to us when we're live on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage or email us at EISTPod@gmail.com. Also, while you're on the internet, why not head to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to the show. Give us a rating and a review if you think of it, because that really helps us out. Stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/EISTpod. And if you like the show, tell a friend. Well, you can join us next Sunday night, February 11th, for the last episode of the first season of Star Trek Discovery and our last episode of this run of Discoverage. We'll be talking about the 15th episode of Star Trek Discovery, Will You Take My Hand? And we hope that you'll take our hands and join us for the finale of this season of Star Trek Discovery. And I say this season because, of course, if you don't know, there will be a second season of Star Trek Discovery. They're already working on it. Do you follow any of the writers or any of the actors on Twitter?
Of course.
Yeah. You don't hear much, but sometimes you get little tidbits about this and that. So I'd recommend that if you're interested in the workings of the show. Thanks again, Ella, for joining me on the show. Remind people where they can find you online.
Thank you. You can find me at generationsgeek.com and at generationsgeek on Twitter and Instagram.
Sounds good. And you can check out Generations Geek's most recent show about aliens on there as well. It's a pretty good show. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks again for joining me. Thanks to the listeners. And we are signing off. This is Aaron for Ella saying, live long and prosper.